Now, what's your view about the bill that was passed at the start of the week concerning the conditions about the same-sex marriage postal plebiscite, the restrictions, the anti-vilification provisions and so on? What's your view of that bill?
It's a very dangerous bill. I am feeling slightly guilty in that I didn't ring the alarm bells. Not that I could have done much about it. It wasn't even voted on. It went through on the Voices. Labor Party and the Greens were in support of it. But what it does is introduce a blasphemy or an anti-blasphemy law I think, for the first time in many decades, it might even be the first time ever. My law degree was a long time ago and I can't remember the details of that, but what it does is contains a provision to prohibit vilification on religious grounds. Now, no one's quite sure what vilification means. It's a pretty vague thing. It's a bit like offence, you know, it's a personal thing. And on religious grounds, it could be, in the past, it used to be, if you said bad things about the Christian church, you could get banged up in jail. These days, the Christian church is very, very tolerant of criticism, and we hear that, you know, over the issues of the Catholic Church's problems. But other religions are nowhere near as tolerant, we know that, and the Muslims are particularly thin-skinned when it comes to criticisms of Islam. So what we have now is a law that says, in the context of the same-sex marriage debate, it's against the law to vilify religion or criticise someone on religious grounds in the context of that debate. Now, the reason my alarm bells didn't go off when that bill came up, and it was all done very quickly, was because it has a very limited time period. It's only a 3-month law. It lapses as soon as the same-sex marriage plebiscite
I wonder if
is
I could
over.
just clarify that if there had been a vote, you would have voted against it. That's correct, is it?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, are you concerned, because you've just raised this point about how it's only for a short period of time, but there are some people already saying that this should become a permanent arrangement?
That's my concern. Yes, that's my concern. It kind of opens the door a crack, and there'll be people trying to get through the door and open it wide up.
What's the government's view on that, do you know?
No, I don't know. I don't know. And I really didn't think the government would do it. I was kind of caught by surprise. They'd been talking about just introducing the misleading and deceptive components of the Electoral Act into this same-sex marriage plebiscite issue. And I thought, well, if that's all they do, you know, who cares? So I hadn't really been paying attention to it until Monday morning of last week, when I realised it was a completely different bill. I suspect the government agreed to it on the grounds that it would go through unopposed by Labor and the Greens. And I think they probably said, oh, well, it's only for 3 months, let's let it go. But it creates a very nasty precedent, and we should not be at all comfortable about this.
Well, it's now the law of the country, though.
It is.
I mean, this whole idea that it's only temporary is surely a very weak argument. Once you say that we are prepared to have this as the law of the country, even for a short period of time, that is an extraordinary step to take. It's a very big concession.
I agree. I'm not usually into thin end of the wedge arguments, but in this instance, I think it has very strong potential to be thin end of the wedge.
So give us an example in practical terms of what it means you can or can't do because of this law,
well,
in this period of time.
Well, in the context of the same-sex marriage plebiscite, if you were to say something rude about a religious point of view in relation to same-sex marriage, and that would be construed as vilification, then it's a criminal offence. Now, this is a free speech issue. You know, my view is you can be rude. You can't threaten or harass. That's legitimate to prohibit those. Not harass, threaten or... Yeah, no, I think it's threaten or harass. But so, you know, you can go too far. But to vilify somebody, it's a bit like saying, oh, I'm offended. What does vilification mean? It's very, very subjective thing, and it means different things to different people. You know, where is the edge? How do you know how far you can go? If you were to say something rude about a particular religious group in the context of the same-sex marriage issue, and they construed it as vilification, they could lodge a complaint and then you could be in trouble. So it wouldn't even necessarily be you intending to vilify somebody.
I think this arrangement is that the attorney is the final port of call here. The attorney actually decides. whether these
there is a
complaints have been
backstop.
proceeded with. Yeah.
Yeah, right, there is a backstop. It can't be just somebody decides and you're in trouble. But it doesn't matter. As I said, I'm not big on thin end of the wedge arguments, but this is absolutely a thin end of the